I'm honored and delighted to welcome King Abdullah of the Hashemite Kingdom of Jordan to Harvard for his first major address to an American university. I also want to extend our warmest welcome to Queen Rania and to the distinguished delegation from the Royal Court. It's a very great privilege indeed to have you with us today. It's also a particular pleasure to welcome you to the ARCO Forum, the Forum of Public Affairs at the Kennedy School of Government at Harvard. It's a forum that has hosted many noted world leaders and enriched our university for many years, helping its students, its faculty, and the whole community to learn at first hand about what great leaders think, what their ideas for the future are, how they can help to shape the future. In celebration of His Majesty's visit, I'm gratified and pleased to announce that the Kennedy School has established an endowed professorship in honor of his father, His Majesty King Hussein bin Talal, a visionary and a courageous leader known to all of us whom we hold in memory. King Hussein ruled the Hashemite Kingdom of Jordan, as we know, for 46 years, beginning in 1953 until this very last year. The new permanently endowed professorship at Harvard is a tangible way of honoring in perpetuity King Hussein's commitment to peace and stability in the Middle East and his unique ability to foster enduring friendships among his neighbors in that region as well as among other nations throughout the world. The professorship will promote advanced teaching, research, and outreach in areas related to global causes and issues to which His Majesty devoted his life and his reign, and to which King Abdullah now is committing himself. The professorship will permit Harvard, in His Majesty's spirit, to build bridges among policymakers, scholars, business leaders, and others everywhere. It's now my pleasure to present to you the Dean of the Kennedy School of Government, Joseph Nye, a colleague, a friend, and an extraordinary leader of this school. Dean Nye will have the honor of introducing His Majesty King Abdullah.
King Abdullah was born in Amman in 1962 as the eldest son of the late King Hussein. He attended school in Jordan, in England, and at Deerfield Academy here in Massachusetts. In 1980, he entered the British Royal Military Academy at Sandhurst and was commissioned as a second lieutenant in 1981. He spent 1983, 1984 at Oxford University studying international politics and world affairs. He then served in various elements of the Jordanian Armed Forces. And in 1990, he attended the British Command Staff College at Camberley. He then went on to become commander of the Royal Jordanian Special Forces and achieved the rank of general. Like his father, he was a pilot, and when I visited him last March in Jordan, I asked him whether he was going to fly. He said, yes, but I'm also a parachutist, and I don't think they're going to let me do that. But he did tell me at lunch today that he's just been doing advanced training on helicopters. So like his father, this is an extraordinary monarch. In addition to his military career, His Majesty often served as regent in the absence of King Hussein. He traveled regularly with his father. He also represented Jordan and King Hussein on various international visits. King Abdullah ascended to the throne of the Hashemite Kingdom of Jordan upon the passing of King Hussein in February of this year. As Jordan's leader, King Abdullah has committed himself to building on his father's legacy of increasing democratization and working for comprehensive peace in the region. His Majesty stated soon after assuming the throne, I want to ensure that together we continue to bring happiness to our children. Together we must fulfill the last wish of the King to ensure a better future for all of us. Please join me in welcoming King Abdullah.
Thank you all very much for such a wonderful, warm reception. I'd like to start out today. I've been asked to actually read from a prepared text and then leave it open for all of you to put me through my paces with some questions and answers. But I'd like to take the opportunity to really say how delighted I am with this honor to be able to be in such an august body. We have really, for many years, had a contact with the university, and it is a great pride and honor for me to be among you today. And thank you very much for having us and for the warm reception you've given me. President Rudenstine, Dean Nye, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, please permit me at the outset to express Rania's and my delight at being here with you today. We are most grateful for your kind invitation to come to Harvard and to the Kennedy School to address all of you. I've always wanted to come to Harvard, but I didn't come as a student, but fate made me come in a somewhat different capacity today. I've always felt close to Harvard, and now, thanks to the noble initiative of President Rudenstine and Dr. Dean Nay in establishing the King Hussein bin Talal Professorship of Public Leadership and Fellowships, Harvard and the Kennedy School will have a very special place in the heart and minds of all Jordanians. My late father, His Majesty King Hussein, had dedicated his life to the very same principles and mission which you at Harvard and at the Kennedy School embody and strive to achieve: to strengthen democratic governance, to better serve the public good, to innovate solutions to the pressing needs of individuals, communities, and nations, to broaden and deepen the dialogue among desperate peoples, to build civil societies where the rule of law, justice, human rights, equal opportunity, and pluralism prevail, and of course, first and foremost, the peaceful resolution of conflicts among nations and states. With your permission, I would like to concentrate my remarks to you today on Jordan, the challenges which we face in our part of the world, and what we are striving to achieve: the attainment of a just, durable, and comprehensive peace in our region is a major objective. I was told when the Harvard graduate whose name this school bears received an honorary degree from Yale, he graciously said, "I now have the best of two worlds, a Harvard education and a Yale degree." And if Harvard graduates are capable of accepting Yale degrees, then anything is possible, including peace in the Middle East. I strongly believe that peace in the Middle East is not only possible, but it is a must. War is not an option. Our region has had more than its fair share of wars, violence, bloodshed, and instability. The time has come to establish peace in the land of peace. We are well on our way in our march towards that goal. We already have peace treaties between Egypt and Israel, and Jordan and Israel, as well as numerous agreements between Israel and the Palestinian National Authority. But we still have a long way to go. The final status negotiations between Israel and the Palestinians must start and succeed. Negotiations between Israel and Syria and Lebanon have to be resumed from the point where they were interrupted 3 years ago. The success of these endeavors will herald a new era in the Middle East, an era of peace where the talents and the energy of the region's peoples will be directed to the improvement of the quality of their lives on the basis of regional cooperation in peace and friendship. We could not have been successful in our determined drive to pursue a fair and just peace had we not been supported by our friends in the world, who truly realized the extent of the difficulties that Jordan would face when it set itself to embark upon such an arduous task. Today, we pride ourselves in the fact that the peace for which King Hussein devoted a considerable part of his life is at long last being given the chance to be a comprehensive and lasting one. Jordan has truly and proudly become a main pillar in the achievement of his cherished dream, as it pursues a progress of peace building with its Israeli neighbors that is based on strong economic foundations. And indeed, 5 years after the signature of the treaty between Jordan and Israel, the model that was shaped by King Hussein and Prime Minister Rabin has passed the test of great challenges and managed to prove its success as an example of how peace can be best made and most effectively sustained. In fact, it is this challenge of preserving peace, building upon it, and solidifying its multifaceted aspects that is the greatest task that lies ahead of us. The Jordan of today is in need of domestic strength on the political, economic, and social fronts, if it is to face the new challenges of peace as it did in facing the challenges of war. Indeed, the reality of the matter is that the role of Jordan in enhancing the security and stability of our region within the framework of peace has become demanding in terms of its requirements and certainly more challenging in terms of its implications. It is with this in mind that we have prioritized our national agenda to reflect the required measures that would enable us to play a positive and leading role in a new set of interregional relations. At the top of the agenda is our determination to deepen our democratization process and to ensure that the culture of democracy becomes embedded in the society through daily practice. An important step in this direction is the issue of national unity. Jordanians, men and women, regardless of origin, religion, or ideology, need to feel equal before the law, as guaranteed by our Constitution. We need to strive to guarantee through legislation and practice that this becomes a reality. A strong and independent judiciary that will ensure full transparency and the security for all citizens is a matter that I have placed a great importance on. We are committed to amend existing legislation and introduce new laws as may be required to guarantee that the opportunities are there for all Jordanians to participate in the development of their society. For the new framework of regional relations to be sustainable, it must be built on a commonality of economic interests, acceptable to all. The globalization of international economic affairs, ranging from trade matters to investment issues to the protection of intellectual property rights, has left no room for narrow differences among nations, to obstruct the process of establishing a new mode of regional economic cooperation and development. Certain requirements are essential for the establishment of this new framework, including a strong political will to positively and constructively address issues of asymmetry in the social and economic conditions of neighboring states. Equally important is the determination of states in the region to pursue the path of economic reform and to adopt and pursue liberal policies regarding trade, investments, and the free movement of capital. Jordan has been a leading pioneer in this regard. Our commitment and pursuit of economic reform, as evidenced by the continued efforts to achieve monetary and fiscal stability, the successful privatization of government-owned companies, and the determination to improve the investment climate in the kingdom have placed us at the forefront of those countries intended on helping themselves before seeking the assistance of others. Jordan's entry into an association agreement with the European Union and our impending accession to the World Trade Organization have paved the ground for an effective and meaningful participation in the global economy. Despite a fourth consecutive year of negative growth in per capita income, our will to continue with the reform of our economy has not wavered. On the contrary, we realize that the more attractive our economy becomes to foreign direct investment, the easier and quicker for it to emerge from its recessionary mode. It is this realization that has placed the goal of attaining economic stability at the top of our agenda. One might even argue that the political and social dimensions of the internal stability required to face the future challenges are mere extensions of the economic factor. The example of what we refer to as the peace dividend exemplifies this very point. The majority of Jordanians who were longing to shed the austerity imposed by regional tension and conflict in exchange for the benefit of trade, large-scale investments, and a vibrant economy activity that has charted the renewed hope in a prosperous future, are still awaiting the fulfillment of their dream. Suffice it to say that the economy underpinning of peace, security, and stability is a major factor that would affect the future of our region. Without it, little can be achieved in terms of nurturing support for policies dictated by the goal of achieving the peace that we all aspire for. When viewed as such, this becomes a definition, an issue that affects regional and, by extension, global security, and therefore needs to be placed on the agenda of the international community. As we pursue our democratic agenda of political and economic reform, approaching the new millennium, which we intend to start with peaceful political relations and a positive economic cooperation on the regional level, we cannot stay hostage to the political uncertainties of the future. There is an absolute requirement to be able to know where we are heading if we are to succeed in fulfilling our regional role. This regional role cannot be isolated from the process of globalization, which is already taking place. It is true to say that globalization has fueled an impressive growth in many countries around the world. But it is equally true to say that the gap between the rich and the poor is becoming wider. According to the United Nations, the income gap between the richest 20% of the world's population and the poorest 20% is now 74-1, compared to 30-1 in 1960. This trend is not only unacceptable, but potentially very dangerous for regional and international security and stability. We in the Middle East are already starting to feel the pressure of this trend, and we believe that the wealthy industrial nations of the world have to pay more attention to the threat that this trend poses if it is allowed to continue unchecked. In addition to fighting poverty and unemployment, there are many other challenges which confront us in the years ahead. Some are social and economic, such as the uncontrolled growth of population. 50% of Jordan's population is under the age of 20. This is the same for most countries in the region. You can imagine what this means in terms of education, medical care, jobs, housing, and giving those young men and women hope for a bright future. We also have to deal with such issues as disarmament, the environment, and the battle against desertification, while the water resources are being depleted. All these are monumental challenges, and we have a lot of work ahead of us. But we are determined to succeed, and with the help of our friends throughout the world, especially the United States, we are confident that we shall achieve our aspirations. During this visit to your great country, I had the pleasure of meeting President Clinton, the Secretary of State, the Secretary of Commerce, the United States trade representatives, members of Congress, and other officials. Our relationship has developed in scope and depth over the past few years, to the extent that it is at its best ever level. We really have a true partnership. We see eye to eye on most issues, and more than anything, the U.S. administration is very supportive of our national and regional role in peace building. We cannot permit challenges, both immediate and future ones, to jeopardize Jordan's success as a viable model of democracy, freedom, stability, moderation, and free enterprise. Let me state from this podium that we shall continue to do all we can to advance the peace process until we achieve a comprehensive peace and start enjoying the fruits of a new set of relations in the Middle East that will be characterized by positive cooperation between all the states in the region. My friends, on one of the gates leading to Harvard Yard are inscribed the words, "Enter to grow in wisdom," and on the other side of the same gate leading out of the yard are inscribed the words, "Depart to serve better the country and thy kind." Being surrounded by Harvard men and women, I think I'm already feeling a bit wiser, and I am determined more than ever to depart to continue to serve my country, my people, and to uphold the lofty principles which you represent and embody. Thank you very much.
King Abdullah has agreed to answer questions. There are 4 microphones, 2 on the floor, 2 in the balcony, and we'll rotate among them seriatim. I should ask you, when you ask a question, please to introduce yourself, say what your relationship to the university is. And I would also ask you to remember that a question is something that is relatively brief and ends with a question mark. And they come 1 per customer. So the first question at this microphone.
Your Majesties, my name is Mohammed Lassas. I'm a Jordanian student at the college and the president of the Harvard State of Arab Students. On behalf of everybody, Ahla wa sahla bi Jalalat al-Malik at Harvard. It's exciting having you here. Your Majesty, you've once described yourself after being a member of a family of 4 people. You're a member of a family of 4 million people now. What are your visions for this family, considering the wide promises that were given to help the Jordanian economy, but were not delivered after the passing away of His Majesty King Hussein, God bless his soul? What is Jordan going to do on that sector?
Thank you. Well, I'm not the type of person to cry over spilt milk. We obviously wanted the international community to understand the problem that we were facing, and a lot of countries have been very open to try and helping us off and solve the debt problems that Jordan is facing. But we need to do a lot of work ourselves, and over the past 6 months we've changed a lot of the laws. We've created an atmosphere to bring investment, to bring jobs back into Jordan, but also open the doors to many Arab countries to take our very high educated workforce to work in those countries. The future of Jordan is the economy, the ability to give a chance to the younger generation to find jobs. The #1 export that our country has, it's human talent. And I've been trying to spend as much time away from the government, actually meeting with people in the private sector and with the youth of the country to see what their aspirations are. I'm 37 years old, and 70% of the country is younger than me. And that means we have to change that we do business. We have to listen to the younger generation and see what their hopes and aspirations are, and give them as much stability and the best chance that they can have to grow and fulfill their ambitions. And we're working with the government to create a better atmosphere. But more importantly, we need to be able to put food on the table for the majority of Jordanians that are below the poverty line and that are seeking jobs. And we have some plans, obviously, between the private sector and the government to achieve those things. It's going to be a long road, but there are improvements in Jordan's economy, and we're moving in the right direction, and I'm very, very hopeful that we'll achieve the goals that we want.
On the first question from this microphone, I'd like to call on Namir Kadar, who's a distinguished member of the Visiting Committee of the Kennedy School.
Actually, I should let Namir up here and talk on behalf of more than me, but
Your Majesty, I know your interest in the information and technological revolution that is taking place, and your desire to see that Jordan would be part of this movement forward. I've also noticed that you've met a lot of businessmen in this country during this trip in this area. Could you please tell us what went on with those people and what are their attitude to helping Jordan and coming in and investing there in that area? Thank you.
Thank you very much. With the amount of talent that we have in Jordan, the future of Jordan is actually in certain industries: mining, tourism, and services. And one of the main things that we managed to identify a new national sector is actually computer industries. We graduate every year more computer graduates than Ireland does. We have such a raw talent. I think we're considered number 14 or 15 in the number of foreign students that come to the United States. For a country of 4 million, that's a huge number. So we have such a wealth of young talent that we want to utilize. So I've been going to the American computer companies to say that Jordan has a golden opportunity to have a win-win situation between the talented workforce that we have and the companies here in the United States. A young student having graduated from the United States coming back to Jordan to work in a computer company for the first 5 years, his salary will not amount more than $200 to $250. So you've got this great talent but at very low labor costs. And so I think there's a great opportunity to bring American companies in. Talking about the development of the area, for example, there's a desire, for example, by Israel to take a lot of that talent to Israel. We think that this is a very interesting proposal, but I presume that once the peace process completes itself, it's much easier for people to be able to interact. But we have this huge pile or reserve of resources that we need to utilize with this young talent that's coming back to our country.
The right side of the balcony.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Azim Sutawala. I'm doing a Master's in Middle Eastern Studies here. I have two questions, if you'd permit me, Your Majesty.
Go ahead.
The first is, well, they're both regarding Jordanian foreign policy. The first is, what is Jordan's official position to the question of Jerusalem, and what Jerusalem will be as in terms of status following the final status negotiations? And the second question is concerning Iraq. What is Jordan's official position concerning US sanctions against Iraq? Is it lobbying against these sanctions? And if so, how is it doing so? Thank you.
Thank you. Jerusalem is obviously the most complicated of the final status issues. And as we move towards final status, I think it's smart for a lot of people to shy away from making too many statements. People like to make too many positions right off the bat, which creates confusion when you try to negotiate. All the partners in the area are aware of Jordan's historical ties to Jerusalem, but we feel that we need to work together to be able to solve the problem. It is the most complicated issue, no doubt. And if people start to plant flags all of a sudden, I think we just create even more of a headache. Let's put it this way, our brethren in the Palestinian Authority and the Israelis know our interests and our desires, and we will hope that the peace process moves quickly enough so that we'll have the ability to sit down and discuss Jerusalem. But any positions or any statements at this point, I think, just confuses the issue, and I'd prefer not to let that happen. As for Iraq, the sanctions have been in place for many years. We see on a daily basis the suffering of the Iraqi people, because a lot of them, for a better life, come into Jordan. I think we have close to 300,000-400,000 Iraqis trying to find a better life in our country. On top of the economy that, the problems of the economy that we have, it's a great burden on Jordan. So we feel firsthand the effect that it's happening on the people. Sanctions are not really solving the problem. We believe that dialogue is a way of getting past the difficulties that Iraq has with the international community. And if there hasn't been any changes, maybe dialogue is the way to improve things. So we believe always on a peaceful outcome, and a peaceful dialogue is a solution as opposed to hostility and confrontation. And we hope that Iraqis and the international community can sit down and talk to each other and resolve their problems and make a change, because we've been suffering from this position for the past almost 10 years. And how long will our part of the world have to suffer with the instability that this particular situation is putting on all of us?
Thank you.
Left balcony.
Yes, my name is Alexander Schrank, and I'm a graduate student at Harvard in the Middle Eastern program. I'd like to know what steps Jordan can take to facilitate a peace agreement between Syria and Israel, considering your excellent relations with both countries and with both leaders.
What we did from day one when we went to Syria to reopen relations, I think, just to give you a bit of history, Prime Minister Netanyahu and Minister Sharon were in Jordan about a month before we went to Syria. And there was concern by the Israelis that obviously we would be going to Syria, which they saw as a direct threat to themselves. And we said no. We felt that Jordan's position was to be friendly with everybody. We can have a good relationship with everybody, or anybody who wants to have a good relationship with Jordan. And there'd be no way that one relationship would be started at the expense of another. When we went to Syria, we were surprised to find that what the Syrians were talking about and what the Israelis were talking about were actually in the same ballpark. I don't believe in being a middleman. I don't believe that to get involved between two people's problems. But I realized that both sides were saying pretty much the same thing. So all we did was just pass the messages that, hey, do you realize that you're talking pretty much in the same the same ballpark with the problems between you two countries. And we've been able to create an atmosphere where both countries felt that they could move forward. That was what we did in Jordan, and we stepped back out. Obviously, if any side feels that we again can help, that would be a great honor and privilege for us. But there's nothing better than two people sitting around a table and solving their own problems than having somebody watching over their shoulder. Thank you.
Your Majesty, my name is Kamal Imhotep Latham. I'm a graduate student here at the Kennedy School, getting a master's in public policy. My concentration is international security, and my question is regarding American foreign policy towards Jordan and the Middle East. I think one of the problems of American foreign policy is that it does not take in the input as much as it should from the leaders of various nations. And since there's a presidential election going on right now, and all the candidates for president are formulating their foreign policy, I want to know, what is your advice to the potential next president of the United States as to what U.S. foreign policy, the best foreign policy, should be towards Jordan and or the Middle East?
I don't know if I should say thank you for that question. Let me throw it back to you in a different way. I think there's cameras here, so I have to be careful. Madeleine Albright, I think, had said several months ago, what do you expect of the younger generation that's coming up in our part of the world? Well, most of us have not only been educated in our part of the world, but also been educated in the West. And we talk. We have our aspirations and hopes for the future. We understand the West very well. And a lot of us are saying, what can we expect from the West? The problem, I think, with the way sometimes the American foreign policy works is it's not a long-term approach. And we feel that we're at a crossroad now where the ideology between a younger generation in the Middle East and those in Europe and the West are pretty much the same. We have some of the same fallbacks in what we aspire as a new Middle East. The problem is how do we achieve a long-term approach by the American government or Europe in general to take a look at our part of the world? Jordan is trying to be a symbol of what we think is the future of the Middle East. We want to bring in freedoms. We want to bring a democratic process. We want to really bring the level of standard of a country to be a symbol that everybody else in our part of the world will say, I want Jordan to be like that. The problem, obviously, with administrations is you do have the campaigns, you do have a limited term for a leader in the United States. Even if it comes to the State Department or other agencies, there's usually a finite period of time. So it can sometimes be extremely frustrating for us to get a long-term policy. What do you expect from us and what can we expect from you when every 4, 6, or 8 years there's a change? And I don't know what the solution is, but one of the things that we did this week was talk to officials in Washington to say, let's look at a long-term approach. How did America deal with Europe after 1945? Maybe that's an example. How do you deal with countries with a long-term approach? So, unfortunately, with politics, people want to make great slogans to endear themselves to certain sectors. I think the third world has gotten used to this, and what we tend to do is sit back and wait until the dust settles, and then we start again.
Thank you.
Your Majesty, I would like to ask you a question which is neither high politics, security, or economics. What is the role of women in Jordanian society in your grand political, economic vision for Jordan? Can they have a share? Can they aspire to positions of leadership? And before you answer, I would like to say that your views on everything is so refreshing. I hope they continue in the same vein.
Thank you. I hope so too. His late Majesty King Hussein was always a defender of women's rights and the rights of children, and if we talk about other social aspects. In our country, we have women in the Senate. We used to have women in the Parliament. We had one woman that I think had done a very good job, but on the next elections, she didn't make it. We have women mayors, we have women flying the airplanes of our airlines. We have the first deputy prime minister is a woman in the Middle East. Women are playing a more and more important role in Jordanian society. And I think that was started by His late Majesty King Hussein, and we're committed to make that process move as quickly as possible. My wife Rania is an advocate of pushing women's rights and women's issues. And we're working together to see what we can do to really bring women to the forefront. I mean, at the end of the day, they can make up 50% of the national workforce. We have a small country with a lot of talent. And actually, when it comes to university graduates, the highest grades are always the women because the boys are out having too much fun.
Very right. I forgot to introduce myself. My name is Tara Sharafuddin. I'm an officer of the Indian government. I'm in the mid-career program here. Thank you.
Pleased to meet you.
Your Majesty, Amr Haddadin, a Jordanian student at Wentworth Institute of Technology. Please allow me to read out my question. It's not that long. Your Majesty, Jordan is working towards entry into the World Trade Organization, which promotes free trade and removal of trade barriers. This will help foreign firms to penetrate the Jordanian market more easily. In light of this consequence, how does Your Majesty foresee the future of the Jordanian firms in terms of survival and competition? Thank you, Your Majesty.
I didn't catch the last part of your question. Sorry. How does the Jordanian...
I'll repeat it. In light of this consequence...
companies.
How does Your Majesty foresee the future of the Jordanian firms in terms of survival and competition?
Well, obviously, the only way to go is to become part of the World Trade Organization, to bring ourselves up to an international level. In a certain sector, for example, the pharmaceutical industry, which is very strong in Jordan and has done an amazing job in the Middle East, there are some concerns in certain sectors of what the World Trade Organization agreement will have. I believe that there's a golden opportunity because we have very good quality industry and we have a very good private sector. And this is one of the things we're trying to do in this visit, is try to get joint ventures with big American companies. If a company is going to feel that it's under threat because it has to work by international regulations, then why don't we marry that up with a big international company so that they can use the structure that's in Jordan and the talent for its survivability. What I've been doing is not only working with the government, but there are different sectors of our society that I've been able to meet. Mostly sitting down with young businessmen that represent all the different companies, and we listen to what their concerns are. And our job is to try and see how, if companies are too small, how do we merge them together so they become stronger, or how we can PR on their behalf to get them in contact with international firms so that some sort of joint ventures can be done. And that's the framework that we're working at. The problem is we need to get a more fluid language between the private sector and the government. Coming into office, and I found out this is not just Jordan, just to reassure you, but the government and the private sector sort of regard each other as mortal enemies. And that was a bit of a shock for me. And what we're trying to do now is actually break down those barriers so that we can work as a team. And so far, the responses have been very, very good. There will obviously be one or two companies that will be threatened. It's the responsibility of the leadership in Jordan to see what we can do to solve that. But there must be different mechanisms to ensure the survivability of Jordanian industry.
Thank you, Your Majesty.
Your Majesty, I would like to ask about the efforts that are put by the present government on the issues of Jordanian citizens that were kidnapped or missing in Kuwait after the liberation of Kuwait and during the Gulf War.
Obviously, we in Jordan have been discussing with all governments the issue of missing peoples or POWs. This is something that is of concern to us. When we were in Kuwait, we did discuss these issues with the Kuwaiti government, and for many years, these problems have been discussed with other countries that might have an answer to where some of the missing Jordanians might be. Sometimes it's just difficult to get the raw information to be able to find them, and we do ask the international community or the regional community to try and help us on missing persons.
Thank you.
Your Majesty, my name is Ram Shmueli. I'm a colonel in the Israeli Air Force. I'm a KSG mid-career program student. I read a lot about you in the past through military publication. So it's a honor for me to meet you and to ask you a question directly. I think that all of us, the Israelis, the Egyptians, the Syrian, the Lebanese, and the Jordanian made a lot of mistakes in the past. And the question that I want to ask you is about the refugees problem. 50 years, there are people that are in refugee camps in Egypt, in Lebanon, in Syria, in Israel, and in Jordan. I want to ask you, what are you going to do with the refugees that are in refugee camps in Jordan? And what do you think others have to do about this refugee problem, because it is stable for the last 50 years? Thank you.
Obviously, we regard the refugees in Jordan as Jordanian citizens, and we believe that this is their home, and they're welcome to the country that has been their home for many years. One of the final status problems that we have, Jerusalem was mentioned, water and refugee are the main concerns of Jordan. We host about 33% of our population as refugees. The Jordanian position is the right of return. We believe that is very, very important. That is the case that Jordan will stand by. However, whatever the agreement is, it's up to the refugees, the Palestinians that have been in our country as part of our country and part of our society for so many years, to choose what they want to do. I would imagine that probably the majority would like to choose to stay in Jordan, but that is up to them. That is their choice. As a position, we have to fight for their rights and stand behind them and allow them the right of return. The difficulty, obviously, is, as you said, there are other countries involved. There's Egypt, Lebanon, and Syria, and maybe the situation there is slightly different. I think that what we need to do is spend more time internationally, or at least with other countries in the area that suffer from the same problems, so that we identify the difficulties and get on the same sheet of music, so to speak. The question is obviously the role of also the international community. It is difficult for refugees to return after so many years, and I think the international community has to support the Israelis, the Palestinians, and all the countries involved on supporting the refugee issue and seeing what we can do to either compensate or allow the right of return. But I think I can reassure you that there are some good discussions going on between Arab countries and between ourselves and with Israel to try and find a solution that will make everybody happy.
Yes.
Your Majesty, my name is Gilberto Carrasquero. I'm from Venezuela. I'm a mid-career student here at the Kennedy School. You come across as a well-educated, well-thought-out, Western, great leader. On the other hand, you're a king. You were brought up to be a king. And I wonder, how the two roles, combine together? How do you wrestle with one and the other? And how does it feel to be a king in a world where monarchy is no longer the dominant way of ruling people?
I think, having learned from my father, if I start to think that I'm a king, then I've got a problem. I think I've been fortunate that I've had the best of both worlds and best of both cultures. I grew up as a high school student here in the United States and got to have a very good understanding of the West. I went straight back to Jordan after the British Army into the regular army, and I was not given a cushy job in headquarters. I was sent to the middle of nowhere, where I served there for many years. And so I was deeply immersed back into Jordanian culture. And I think that has made me, I have an advantage, I think, than most people have. I had the chance to grow up as a normal person here in the United States doing education, where people really didn't care who you came from and what your title was. And I think that was an invaluable lesson that I've been able to keep all my life. And being able to go back to Jordan, where I was sent out in the middle of nowhere commanding troops, and those who have been anywhere near the army, soldiers, will tell you exactly what's on their minds. And titles and airs don't work very well out in the middle of nowhere. So I had the opportunity in both societies to interact with people. And when we had the terrible loss of His late Majesty, I think the number one thing that I've had to an advantage is I still know what the problems are. I had to suffer with my soldiers through what they had to go through, the poverty that they were going through, the difficulties that they had to bring up their families, how far the paycheck would take them on a month, and I knew it wasn't very much. So those insights of having a normal life and being able to be brought up as a Jordanian citizen, as a Jordanian soldier, or in other travels as a regular human being and everywhere else in the world, gives me a different perspective from this point of view. I think I have more in common with the people than a lot of the people that are around me, and I think that makes a big difference. What fear I have is, as time progresses, will I lose touch? And that sort of instills me to come up with innovative ways to keep in touch with the people and keep in touch with the country to get the raw data back that I was used to having for so many years.
We have time for just 2 more questions, and they'll be the balcony here and the balcony there. I'm sorry, we're running out of time, so there are 2 more questions, 2 balconies.
Your Majesty, my name is Muhammad. My name is Muhammad Al-Haj Hassan, a Jordanian student at MIT, and I would like to ask you, in light of the growing anti-normalization movement in Jordan, what is Your Majesty's policy towards maximizing the fruits of peace and promoting trade between Jordan, Israel, and the Palestinian National Authority?
I have a slight problem when a small minority of people bully the vast majority into a certain stand. I think that the practice of anti-normalization is an issue that I would like to address when I have a chance to back home in Jordan. What I say to my friends is let the peace process move as quickly as possible, because we really need to have the type of world that we all believe in. And I think the majority of Jordanians believe in peace and stability. We've had wars in our region for 30, 40 years. The people, I think, in our part of the world have just had enough. And in the hearts of Jordanians, I believe that let us have peace. We haven't seen the fruits of peace because there's still a lot of people out there that create instability, create fear, create paranoia. I hope that we can encourage our Israeli brethren and our Palestinian brothers and the Syrians and Lebanese to move as quickly as possible. Once the Palestinian-Israeli problem is solved, then we all have a chance to have the type of life that we've all wanted. And I mentioned this yesterday, but we keep talking about peace, and the slogans that we keep saying is, you know, we want to have peace for our children and for their generations. And I think we've got this wrong. We should have peace for us now so that our children and their generations can benefit from it.
Assalamu alaikum, Your Majesty. My name is Zayed Yassin. I'm an undergraduate student here at the college. You spoke of the necessity of peace in the Middle East. And I was wondering, what do you see, what or who do you see as the biggest obstacles to that peace process? And how do you see your and Jordan's role in overcoming these obstacles?
Well, the biggest problem is those that use the power of the pen or the strength of a word to create paranoia and insecurities to allow the rest of the people to move forward to peace. I think that the players that we have all understand what is at stake in Israel, with the Palestinians, the Syrians, and the Lebanese. There is no major obstacle. What it comes down to is getting people to sit down and focus on what is at hand. And I think, if I remember the courageous move of His late Majesty at the wire courts to come from hospital, basically to tell people off, to say, look, you're all arguing about such petty things. You've forgotten what you're actually here to do. You're here to try and create a life, a future for your people and their children. So put away your differences and focus on the problem. And I think it woke everybody up and the peace process was allowed to move. I think that people have that focus now with Prime Minister Barak and President Arafat know what needs to be done. I think the Syrians are committed to having peace with Israel, and so are the Lebanese. So the atmosphere is there and the will is there. And we, all of us in Jordan and in the international community, have to stand by our Israeli friends and our Palestinian brothers and the Syrians and the Lebanese to encourage them to move forward, that we will be there to support them. And that's the best thing that we can do.
Thank you.
You want to take one more, or do you want to stop?
I have to take one or two more from you.
Because of the efficiency of the questions and the answers, we'll have time for just one more.
Thank you. My name is Thaer Al-Khairi. I'm a graduate student at Harvard University. I'm from Amman, Jordan. Your Majesty, I would like to ask a question. What's your plan to resolve the water problem in Jordan? The water problem in Jordan?
Right. Well, the water problems is not just Jordan. It involves all the countries in the region. Obviously, we have a lot of fossilized water and brackish water underground in large quantities. These are quick fixes that, if we have the financial support, we can solve the water problem in Jordan. But all of us in the area have got to start talking about water. The water that is affecting Jordan, Israel, Lebanon, Syria, Iraq to that extent, comes from the north. So where do we cut off the border? I think that there needs to be a move by the international community to allow freedom of water, the right of water to everybody. If everybody starts to become selfish and cut off their own pieces of water, today I may be in Jordan, I might cut off the water to my southern neighbor, well then somebody a few years later might do that to the north and to north of them. I hope that, and I think President Clinton had it in his mind, to discuss regional water issues when he comes out to the Middle East sometime this year. And water is like air. I think it belongs to everybody. And I think that if we can put our minds together, those who have an abundance of water cannot charge people that don't. I mean, if we start putting price on water, do we start putting price on oxygen? I mean, it seems to be crazy. So there needs to be, I think, from the international community, the United Nations or whoever, to come up with an agreement that water is allowed for everybody. Obviously, technology will help a lot, and desalination and other projects in the area will support it. But the future potential conflicts in our area is not over land, it's over water, because you can't live without it. Thank you.
As I said in my introduction, King Abdullah, like his father, is no ordinary monarch. I believe he has demonstrated that well for us this afternoon. Please join me in expressing our gratitude for his presence among us and welcome him back anytime he wants to return. So, thank you.
That was very good. You had the meeting out of your